I think we are live.
What's up, Facebook?
Hello, hello. Good afternoon. How are you guys? And welcome to another lunch with a shark. And it's Wednesday today, and we have a very special guest and a friend of ours, Hernan Cias from the Business Bros. How are you?
How's it going, business bros?
Awesome. I love your intros. I love your intros.
They're fun. They're fun. They get the juices flowing.
They are. They are. And as always, we love having you, and we love being part of your podcast as guest often. So, how's everything doing? How's life treating you?
Life is good. We're a lot of us are going through this whole COVID thing, but for me, I like to try to put a positive spin on as many things as I possibly can. And so, although I am one of those that's questioning the severity of a lockdown situation, I don't know if that's what should have happened anymore. But aside from that, it's given me some great opportunities to talk to a lot more people, to focus in on my business, on my podcast, on creating content. And it's been, a blessing in disguise.
That is great. That is great. I know that you've been very active. You guys are continuing moving forward with a podcast. I love the podcast. If you guys have not heard the podcast, I really, really invite you to listen in. They have a daily podcast. They have different topics about business, life, what's going on, general information, but it's very relevant and it's very down to earth. There is no bullshitting around.
No, I mean, we just have fun. It's a matter of, everybody has a perspective and everybody has an opinion and everybody's going through life at their own pace in their own way. And so, where yesterday, for example, we had the owners of CrossNet Games. This basically, it's like, imagine two volleyball nets but vertical, and it's like a foursquare, right? And this kid's like 27 years old, and they're estimating revenue this year $12 million because this thing just took off, right? It's like a revenue sport. The life that he's living and the experience that he has is completely different from the small business owner who's just about to start right now and has an idea and is in the excitement of the idea phase. But both have a great story to tell. Both have a passion behind what they do. Both have a story that is unique to themselves and their situation, and we can all learn from that.
Right, and you just said two things that are extremely important in this time: startup and story. Tell us about your story on how you started the podcast, because it amazes me that you have a daily podcast that it's produced between you and your brother, and it's the number one podcast in San Diego. So tell me how you started it.
So honestly, we started because there's other more successful people than us, and they kept saying things like, if you have a business, you need to have a podcast. If you have a business, you need to have a podcast. So, like anything else, when I have a mentor and my mentor says to do something, oftentimes they're speaking from a place of experience. So I did, right? So we started this podcast, and when I was looking into how to do it, I was like, well, who has a successful podcast? And I looked up, and of course, Joe Rogan is like the number one podcaster ever. And what does Joe Rogan do? He sits down and he talks to people. He has honest conversations. And what made him successful? Well, he was in early, and he has over thousands of episodes. 1,000 at the time. It was about 1,000 when we first started. And so my thought was simple. Okay. I'm not good at this. I've never done it before, but if I can get to 1,000 the fastest way possible, then, maybe I'll be better at this, and we'll see what happens. So we committed to doing it for 3 years, every single day. Do the math. That's going to get you close to 1,000 episodes. And slowly but surely it modified, right? The intent was pretty simple. Start a podcast, do what you can to make it as good as possible. And initially when we started, I was like, okay, well, I'll do a podcast and maybe I'll get more real estate clients and sell more houses. But that's not what happened. I ended up interviewing people in the real estate space, and it's kind of hard to sell a house to a real estate agent. So we shifted the focus, and we're like, okay, well, every person we meet needs insurance. We have an insurance agency. Why don't we just use it as a prospecting tool? And so that's what we set out to do. And it was the greatest prospecting tool we've ever come across, because I mean, you're in business, prospecting sucks. And the main reason why it sucks is because everybody tells you no. But with podcasting, when you reach out to somebody like, hey, can I talk about your business on my show? You want to come promote your product or service, whatever? They all say yes. And they don't give you 2 minutes of their time. They give you 30, 45 minutes, an hour of their time until you establish a relationship, and then you can go from there. And that's what we've been doing. And it's, you know, have we hit the stardom of, you know, the Joe Rogan show and he had millions of views no, but you know what? We're way further along than other people. And it comes down to one simple thing: consistency. It doesn't matter what it is you do, as long as you do it consistently.
And I will probably add a couple more there. You are consistent, and you have the balls to start it, and you're doing more than anybody else. You're being present. So it takes guts to start something. You guys inspired us to start these videos. And I was looking at them yesterday, and we're on video 46, 47 already. And I'm like, holy crap, like, when did we get that many? For me, those are a lot. But when did we get at 40 something? It's like, we're there. Like, it's now something that I enjoy doing every day.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people. It's got to become part of your lifestyle, right? 47, that's no small feat. Most people stop at about 14, right? That's right. So if you look statistically at podcasts, there's only about 1 million podcasts out there, and half of them only have 14 episodes or less because they give up. The consistency factor is the hardest thing, right? But you, from the first time we met, have always been confident and you're able to speak about your topics and that sort of stuff. But to stand behind a camera and go live and not really talk to any one person in particular, that is a skill that you have to develop. That's not the easiest thing to do.
Well, do you know what I do? I imagine the people that are listening to us or seeing us in front of me. And the good thing that it's Jeff, I have it in front of me, and Captain Crunch is always around. So I talk to them.
For those of you who don't know, Captain Crunch is the dog.
Yes, Captain Crunch is our dog. People have seen it. He's been on videos, and every time that I don't know, I don't know if he's really intelligent or he already knows what the hell is going on. But every time that I'm setting up or Jeff is setting up, he's always around. He gets up and he starts going around, and he knows that it's good. So I think he likes being in the camera.
Hey, you know what? Some of them do. I've seen, you know, there's some popular cats and some popular dogs on TikToks and Instagrams. They are conscious of the attention as much as we are, right? And they're probably more conscious. A dog loves your attention.
He loves attention. He loves attention.
And he knows that when the camera's on, the attention is on. So
exactly.
They make that correlation pretty quickly.
So tell us your experience with small businesses. What have you noticed in this little particular time that we're going through? What has been your experience with those small businesses? Like, do you really think they're gonna be suffering? Do you think that as soon as we hit phase 3, 4 here in California, is everything going to be back to normal? To a top 90%, 95%?
I don't think it's going to be a normal. I think it's going to be a new normal. And as far as like what I'm seeing, it's kind of subliminal what I'm seeing. So let me take you back. In 2006, I went broke. I lost everything. I had to sell my properties. I had to close my business. I had to let my employees go. I had to shut down my store, all that stuff, right? It was horrible. And me, personality wise, I have a lot of pride. So the going broke part sucked. But what really sucked was having to let my family know, my friends know, my employees know that I was going under, right? That I wasn't as successful as I made out. I had failed, right? That was the biggest part. And I think right now what we're going through is you've had this shutdown for almost 6 weeks. We're going into the second month here. And businesses, I can guarantee you, for the most part, didn't have the cash liquidity to survive a month. They just
No, they
didn't.
didn't.
They're very dependent on other people, other resources like the federal government to pitch in some of this money. Right.
Unfortunately, business owners and everybody is broke and they don't even know it.
And here's the thing though, they're starting to feel it. Okay. And so you're starting to have situations where partnerships are dissolving. Families are starting to not talk to each other. It's a little bit easier because we're all in quote quarantine, right? So, but you're starting to see things dissolve. If you look a little bit deeper, people's habits are changing as you can, if you're looking and I can only reflect on what I have done in my own past. And it reminds me honestly of when I was in high school. I used to date a lot of girls, and I would pull a very like asshole move. And when, about the 2-month marker, I would stop talking to them, and hopefully they got the hint that it was over. Instead of being a man and going to them and saying, hey, this isn't working out, I don't have the same feelings anymore, that sort of stuff. That's what I would do. And I'm starting to see that amongst a lot of people in business, especially younger entrepreneurs who this is their first time going through some sort of crisis, right? Those who have experience now, like I had to break up with some vendors. I had to break up with some employees this time around, right? But even though it sucked, I had the experience from my past to understand that act fast, act swift, act early to survive going forward. Whereas other people don't want to do that because of fear of their ego, right? Fear of looking like they're making a mistake, looking like they're failing, and so you're starting to see some of that going on underneath.
And we've been hearing and we have been saying, you know what, be proactive instead of being reactive. And you're 100% right. I think that people are going to start noticing right now the effects of this quarantine. So far, it's been somewhat happiness.
Well, see, you and I are in a unique situation in the sense that we talk to people about their finances, right? And so you're starting to get people to reach out and ask questions without literally asking the actual question they want to ask, which is, hey, I'm going broke. What do I do? They don't say that. Instead, it's subtle and things are like, hey, I heard there's this, thing for payroll. And I heard that, we're getting these other loans. And I heard that we can defer our mortgages. Like you're getting very subliminal. Like, let me ask you for a friend of mine.
It's so funny. It's so funny that you say that because I had a client yesterday reach out to us. And I'm going to ask you after this is like, he wanted it to apply for the PPP for his wife. And he wanted it to do it on his own. And he was asking me for his 2019 tax return. And he had sent me the documents that morning, yesterday. And he wanted it for me to prepare his tax return for yesterday's afternoon. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't, because we have a work schedule that we have to follow. Otherwise, yes, everybody's documents and tax returns and financials are urgent and important, but we have to follow a program. And he says, well, I'm going to apply for the PPP for my wife. And I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. And he says, well, I'm going to use our annualized income. And I'm like, no, if it's for your wife, you have to use your Schedule C. And he goes and says, oh, what's Schedule C? And I'm like, dude, are you going to do it on your own? And you don't know what Schedule C is? Like,
you're
God
in trouble.
Bless you. Like, you're in trouble. You have not learned anything out of this. So with that said, do you think the PPP, and for anybody that does not know what the PPP is the Payroll Protection Program through the SBA, do you think that's going to help people? Do you think that's going to help small businesses? Do they even understand what this loan is going to do for them?
I think it's a short-term fix. It's a Band-Aid in a hemorrhaging wound. So one thing that we're not hearing and nobody's really talking about this is bankruptcies in the near future. So people are going to be taking on these debts. People are going to be taking on these loans, only hearing the part that says forgivable, but not really reading the terms on what makes that loan a forgivable loan. There's certain rules and regulations that you have to have in place for that to work. So what most people are going to end up doing is what this client was trying to do is, let me get some influxion of cash so that I can survive and pay my bills. Not doing it as a payroll type thing, is to survive and keep your staff on staff to move forward. So they're not going to meet the qualifications of having it forgivable, but they're bleeding and hemorrhaging cash anyways. And if that's the case, then they're going to get to a bankruptcy point later down the road, and it's going to be essentially forgivable in that sense going forward.
Right. And it's like a conversation I had with somebody else, is like that we were helping getting their payroll tax credit for the Social Security portion of their payroll. And they were telling me, it's like, but it's $10,000. It's $10,000. And we have X number of employees times 10. And I'm like, no, it's only up to $10,000 of payroll for the Social Security portion of the employer. Mm-hmm. And she kept asking me the question in different ways and trying me to tell her that it was going to be $10,000 per employee. And I'm like, no, here, it's 6.2% up to $10,000, blah, 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 blah. And she went, oh, that's not a lot. I'm like, no, it's not a lot.
No.
And she's like, the law is written very, very incorrectly. Every single law is written so you can interpret it. And if you are not a lawyer or not expert on interpreting law, you are not supposed to be doing this.
Well, and here's the other thing is I wouldn't even go so far as to call it a lie, as far as it is an advertisement. It's an advertisement. You are being sold from your federal government that we're here to save you and to prop you up. And that's a load of horse crap. They're not.
I can tell you, but they're doing the best that they can. It's not like they're not, the federal government is not there to help you.
No, that's my point.
But at all. They're not there to help you. Period. They're the federal government. They're keeping us safe to a point, just up to a point. They're doing certain things. Federal government does not interfere on your day-to-day operations as a local state government, but they're doing their best they can. They're actually throwing us lifesavers, not lightsabers. That was Star Wars.
Too much May the 4th on the brain.
Yes, May the 4th, yes. They're throwing us a lifesaver, but they're doing more than most governments out there.
100%.
I'll just ask you to turn your head and look south, and Mexico is drowning.
Yes.
Mexico is drowning. Like I've heard from friends that are really, really close to the government that they've ordered over 1 million bags for dead people.
Wow.
And every single death certificate, it's not COVID. It's a typical pneumonia.
Yeah. See, and
it's crazy.
That's but that's the things that people are dealing with on a personal level, right? These are people that are dealing with the physical illness of it. And that's, and to me, that's, that's one of those things that it's sad, and it's completely different from the business aspect of it. So the government is dealing with both of them. They're trying to help the public on one hand. On the other hand, when it comes to the finance part, this is a little bit different. If you ever understand how politics works, one of the main reasons why nobody likes Congress is because of the rules that get put in place. They have the control of the purse strings. So yes, they're dangling this carrot in front of you, telling you, hey, up to 10,000, you don't read the fine print. You don't speak tax code anyway, so it doesn't make sense to you. Hey, here's an SBA loan, a forgivable. You don't understand the language either. But on the back end, what you don't see is all the extra stuff that gets put in those same things that we pass because we need that money, and it goes into all kinds of other different stuff.
But you should see it like you put the rules of the game in your own business. So the government is putting the rules to that game in their business.
Yeah.
They're giving you something that it's going to be free. If you qualify, you got the money. The easy part was getting the money. Now qualify to get it forgiven. That's the hard part, because the rules have not been pulled out. They're being prepared. Now there's people that want to utilize these funds to prepay rent. How easy is that? Oh, I got $10,000. Let me prepay 5 months of rent. Well, dude, guess what? You
That's not what
cannot
the funds are
prepay
for.
rent. That's not. They want to keep people working. They want to keep people on payroll. They want to keep the economy moving through employment. That's what they want instead of paying unemployment. Interesting.
It's totally interesting, and again, the reason why you're not going to get the it does make sense, but the reason why you're not going to get the forgivable part is the same reason why if you give somebody $1 million, they better learn to be a millionaire really quick, or that money is going to disappear faster than anything else.
Exactly.
It's just the habits, might as well, because you're going to be in a worse position, believe it or not.
You have until today, if you are really not going to use it for payroll, to return the money without penalties. Actually, you have until May 6th to return the money without penalties or anything if you're not going to use it or do not know how to use it.
But here's the dilemma. Here's always a dilemma. Once the deposit hits their account, it's already spent. It's gone. And that's the scary part of the situation that's going on right now, because you're bleeding. Because it's habits, it's cash flow issues. If you weren't thriving in one of the greatest economies that was going on, right now when everything's pulling back, you're really hurting for cash. They're not thinking 6 months in advance or a year later or when these payments are going to go back. They're thinking, how do I pay this month?
And it's very interesting because when you talked about bankruptcies, this loan, it's not going to be written off through a bankruptcy. And if you file bankruptcy, there's going to trigger audits, and the FBI, the Department of Justice, it's going to start an inquiry about this. Federal prisons are going to be packed with people that did not needed this loan. There's already a case already in Florida.
See, that's man, wouldn't it be nice to be a lawyer right now? Litigation on this is going to be
amazing. Well, defending you is going to be a problem because you lied on the penalty of perjury on your application.
Mm-hmm.
Defending you, it's going to be a problem.
See, that's a scary thing, man. That's a scary thing. And we'll probably see if it's too flooded, you'll probably see some changes. But the taxpayer's footing the bill here. It's ultimately, this is money that you've been paying on taxes, which comes down to some of the qualifications for these things, right? Using your tax return, right? Well, there's oftentimes when small business owners, especially when they're getting started, have all kinds of expenses that they run right off on their tax return. And this, they end up showing a loss or very little income at the end of the year. And then when the opportunity like this presents itself, where you have the ability to find an additional source of revenue, whether or not you're going to use it appropriately or not, this is just the pre-qualification process of getting that. Now you're dealing with, holy crap, I don't qualify because I made $0 the last 2 years. Matter of fact, I lost money the last 2 years. I'm qualified. I'm trying to get a loan. The bank is literally saying, cool, we'll give you the money. However, show us means that you can pay it back. You don't have that.
No, you don't. Maybe you got the PPP, which is based on your payroll. You afforded, or you could afford the payroll. But what about the emergency loan based on your profits? Mm-hmm. You maximize, supposedly you're very wise in your tax planning, and you maximize all your deductions, and you have zero profit. You are not credit subject.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, it's like buying a house, right? You borrowing the money, you have to show that you can pay it back. If you have too much, if you've acquired too much debt, or you have a credit history of not being able to pay your bills on time, you're not going to qualify for that debt. Well, this one doesn't have those types of qualification processes, but you do have to show means that you can pay it back. And people are going to struggle with that.
You can't have the best of both worlds. Either you pay your taxes accordingly with a good tax planning, and if you want to do your own tax planning, then start by your revenue, then all your expenses, then separate those expenses as to what qualifies as a tax deductible expenses, then max your retirement accounts, After that, consider your capital gains. And if you don't understand, then get a good tax planner.
Mhm. Yeah.
Don't do it on your own.
And but that's the value again from going to somebody who is just managing your books to somebody who's helping you be proactive, because a proactive CPA, a proactive accountant, a proactive enrolled agent, whatever it is that you go to, somebody who's proactive in helping you plan your business strategically is setting you up to take advantage of these types of things. Chances are, if you've structured your business the right way since the beginning, you have existing lines of credit that you are surviving on right now, that you have
Right.
you've built in for these just in case things. You don't ask for the credit when you need it. You ask the credit for the credit when you don't need it, so that it's there when the time comes.
And just don't go to any CPA, because most CPAs are not tax experts. Most CPAs, because they are a CPA, it does not mean that they are going to help you grow your business and do a good tax planning. Period. And the one difference is having a good set of books compared to a good accounting to compare to a good tax planning. It's completely different. And if you're visiting your accountant or your enroll agent or your tax preparer or your CPA once a year, you're fucked. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Plain and
That's not
simple.
proactive. That's
You're
reactive.
fucked. You're fucked. Period. Because you cannot do anything for that client right now for last year. There's nothing we can do. We
No.
don't have a time machine to go back in time and help you plan for 2019. I was preparing a tax return right now before I hop on the video. Um, it's a doctor. He sent me his tax report from Mexico 2 weeks ago. His revenue was $500,000. His expenses are $250,000. His tax bill right now is $50,000. I can't do anything for him. There's nothing I can do for him.
Too late.
Too late. And trust me,
December 31st has come and gone.
That call is going to be a very interesting call, because guess what? He's going to try and blame it on me and say, do anything possible for me. Well, dude, I can't go back time.
Yep.
I can't.
It's amazing how advice is thrown when it's coming from a professional, depending on the time. When times are good, you don't even think about anything negative happening. I mean, honestly, 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, we weren't considering any of these things. A changing market, everything was boasting it was going on the right path. Extensions of, of course we always have extensions of filing tax returns, but it's okay if you had another year lost, because you know what, 2020 is the year that everything's going to be perfect, everything's going to be great. Right. And when these things happen, when these things come, like they come out of the blue, you don't expect them. That's the whole purpose of planning for the unexpected, is because you don't know when it's going to happen. It just happens. The same reason why you should have, extra food in your garage or extra water. You don't know what's going to happen. It might not happen worldwide, but maybe in your block, they shut off the water because they have to do service and it lasts, 2 days, 3 days, whatever. You have to have plans in place, some sort of contingency plans in your own life, just as you need to have them in your business.
Right. At least you have toilet paper.
Yeah, at least you have toilet paper, at the very least.
Right. In your opinion, do you think people are going to learn from this?
Yes-ish. So like anything else, the memory banks of the human are very short term. We've gone through a shifting market. It's just 2008, like 12 years ago. It wasn't too long ago where things happened. But they're kind of like scars, right? When you look at your body and you have a scar from a physical accident, you look at the scar and you remember that it hurt, and you remember where it might have happened, but you rarely remember all the details about how you could have prevented it, about what you learned from it, about what changes you made. Some of them you implement and they become part of your lifestyle. Some of them you don't. And so in 2008, people failed. They made some big mistakes. I was in one of those situations the same way, right? Did you take into account any changes? Did you make new habits that you have implemented since then? Right. Some things are as simple as, like now it's something I didn't do then. I journal. I make sure I get up early every single day. I effectively plan my week. I effectively plan what I'm going to accomplish in that one day. These are habitual changes that I've made for myself so that when things come up in this one, I know I'm going to be thriving. So people are going to learn, people are going to be slapped and they're going to have some scars. But unless they make some of these small habitual changes in what they're doing going forward, then they're going to remember the time when things went up, and they're going to remember the time when things went down, and they're going to wait for another down market like we're seeing now, but not have the tools to implement and take advantage of when the markets shift. And I think that's what's going to happen today when people are, I've talked to a lot of people who have lots of equity in their homes, and they're like, I can't wait for the next down market so I can, go in and buy more real estate. And I'm like, cool. How much cash do you have? Well, my house is worth this much and I only owe this much. I'm like, cool. But how much cash do you have? Mm-hmm. Well, when time comes, I'll just refinance my house. That's my point, right? You are not, cash. You understand the up and you understand the down of the market. Did you set yourself up so when the down comes, you're prepared to take advantage of it? You didn't. You're assuming that you can pull money out of your home to buy other assets. What you don't realize is the ability for you to borrow funds in a down market is not the same.
Guess what? Your credit card limit has been reduced by half. If you have not even noticed it, just go to your credit card statement online, or look at your credit card statement that you receive by mail, and your credit limit has been reduced by half without you noticing.
Yeah. Because you weren't using those funds, and they want to make sure, the banks want to make sure they have more liquidity because they know mortgages aren't going to be paid here in the near future with all the forbearance. So, they're a business. They run for profit. Banks are not doing things for free. So they're making changes in the way they do things. To get a loan today, you better have a better credit score than you did 8 weeks ago. I mean, huge difference. You should be closer to the 700s to get a mortgage than being in the 550s, 600s like we were, just 8 weeks ago.
So, and it's amazing that you have equity in your house and you can get a home equity loan. But if you have $100,000, you're going to get $25,000.
Yeah, it's gone. Period. So, the opportunities to do things are still there, are still prevalent. They're still going to present themselves. But have you set yourself up? Have you developed as an individual? Have you learned some skills between the last time to this time so that you're prepared to take advantage? Can you speak a new language? Can you speak realtor? Can you speak contractor? Can you speak taxes? Can you speak accounting? You've had 12 years to learn it. Did you or didn't you?
I don't think they did.
And that's my point, is you're going to learn that things go up and things go down. But unless you put the habits in place to change you, the individual, so that you are prepared to take advantage of it, it's just a small scar where you can tell a story.
And unfortunately, it's my belief that we are not going to learn from this, and that we as human beings are not going to accept our responsibility. We're not going to be accountable, and we're going to blame everybody else, the government, the external factors, God, the virus, for everything that's happening to us. But it's actually us who are responsible for this. We are responsible for the situation that we are in. We did not prepare.
Nobody wants to look in the mirror.
The day that the government said, "Hey, we're shutting down this," we're shutting down the state. When the governor came out and said, "Hey, we're shutting down everything," we actually went ourselves to Walmart to buy supplies. Mm-hmm. And it was very interesting exercise, because I saw most of the shopping carts, full with beer, chips, bread, and like shitty things.
Yeah.
Shitty things. And I was buying canned goods, tuna, chicken, soups, like things that we are able to utilize without heat, without the necessity of water, things that you could provide nutrition, protein, things like that. And I was being like, dude, why are you buying that shit? Like, for me, it's shit. For you, it's not. But chips, really? Beer, wine, Soda, instead of buying water, juices, things that are going to provide you nutrition, milk, powder milk, those were full. Those were there. Like they had plenty of those, and I was like, really, toilet paper? Are you going to eat the paper? Do you really expect to have? Do you have a big family? Like, why toilet paper?
They must have the bears, the Charmin bears.
I know. And I was like, people have not learned nor listened to prepare. They're like just buying to buy without using a little bit of common sense.
It's not common. That's kind of the point. It's a scary thing. Here's the upside to it, in my opinion, is you still have the ability to change, right? Even though things are bad right now, even though you may have lost your job or your business is struggling, this is where you can dial it back. This is where you can reach out to people who are successful. They're willing to help. They're willing to share what you need to do. But realize that there is no easy button to this. The government doesn't have the easy button to save you. You know, the banks don't have the easy button to save you. This is going to take you going back down to the basics, you really trimming down where you are as an entity, as a you know, income and expense point of view, right? You really have to dial it back. But when you dial it back, understand that you're dialing it back like kind of like those cars where you drag them backwards so they can take off going forward. That's what it's for. This is what you're doing, and this is your reset, and use it as a reset button. Use it as
I really don't think that the government is out there for them to save you, nor the banks. You actually went to the bank and asked them for the money to buy your house. So the only responsible on paying that loan, it's you, not the government, not the bank. The banks are not obligated to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to forgive 50% of the money that I lend you to buy your house, and you can keep your house. Your employer, it's not responsible for them losing revenue and letting you go or furloughing you or cutting your hours in 50%. Like,
it's not your boss's job to make you rich.
It's not your boss's job to keep your job guaranteed 100%. It's for you to keep your job. It's for you to look for another opportunities. It's for you, like if you're 50% furlough, look for other options. Well, don't just sit down and binge on Netflix.
No. See, and here's the thing, right? Here's the difference between what an entrepreneur is going to do and when somebody just has like a little side gig, right? If you're in a tough situation like we are today, if your business is struggling like we are today, and you decide to chill on the couch and watch Netflix and, you know, kind of relax and binge and, you know what, I'm just going to stay at home. You have a gig. You have a gig. You have a side hustle. It's not as important to you. That was the value that you placed on it. It's probably why it's in the position that it's in, because you didn't put enough time and emphasis into it. If that side gig, if you were treating it like that and it's supposed to be your main source of income, you better turn on your entrepreneur hat and start getting creative. Start thinking about, okay, how many people do I have in my database? What other additional things can I offer them? Reach out and see what kind of help they need. I promise you, when you reach out to people and ask them what you can help them with, they will open up. Do it on Facebook. Join groups that are in your space.
Exactly. And they are your best source of information.
Not just that. It's a matter of also being vulnerability. So I started off by telling you that, you know, that pride of I'm failing is the thing that stopped me. And I'm sure I heard a lot of people when I was going broke, not on purpose, but just because I didn't want to talk to them, didn't want to share with them, you know, got real short when it came to talking about finances at the time because it hurt. But if I were to open up to those people and explain my situation and be open with them, tell them, look, this is where I'm at. I really need help. Like if you know anybody who is in, you know, who can buy or sell a house or who needs to buy insurance or whatever it is that your business is about, if you open up to your existing clients and you open up to the people around you and share your situation, humble yourself to the fact that you are human and you're valid and you make mistakes and it's not going right now. I can guarantee you most people want to help you, especially if they've done business with you in the past.
They do.
Right now, we're in an open heart situation. People want to help. Give them
the only difference between you and them is that your ego, it's no longer your enemy. You are no longer your own enemy. You actually learn to seek help. It's okay.
I fell on my face. That's why.
But it's okay to seek help.
Yes.
It's perfectly fine. Nobody's going to judge you. Only body that is judging is yourself if you are so stubborn not to seek for help.
I'll give you the greatest secret. Seeking help is actually the way you grow your business.
Right.
Seeking help with team members, seeking help from your clients, seeking help from family and friends. That's people want to feel like they've done something for someone.
Don't micromanage. Don't micromanage. That's why you have a team. If you have a team,
it's absolutely true.
Use them.
That's absolutely true.
Erna, it's been amazing having you. I enjoy talking to you all the time. You have a lot of input to provide, a lot of knowledge to give us. I always learn something when I talk to you. Tell us, how can we reach you if we need help, if we need insurances, if we need anything? Because I know that you have a huge box of information, tools, resources, contacts that can help us.
Absolutely. You guys can find me on any of the social media platforms at Business Bros Pod, even TikTok. So you can reach out to me on TikTok. At Business Bros Pod is our at thing, whatever it's called. Or you can shoot me an email, hernan@csfirst.com or businessbros@csfirst.com. And we'll get in contact with you. And like Vidal was saying, it's one of the reasons why I went with Business Bros is because that's what I love to do. It's what I've talked about. I've held multiple licenses in different spaces. I talk to all kinds of different entrepreneurs in different spaces. So, I may not be the person that helps you solve your problem, but I will help you get connected with people who can. So reach out to me. I will do my best to get you in a situation, even if it's just financial therapy or business therapy. You want to vent something, reach out. I'm here for you guys.
Hernan, it's been amazing talking to you, and have a good afternoon, everyone.
Same.
See you tomorrow.
See you guys.
Ciao. Bye.